20% of kids have a gambling addiction. That statistic is false. But 20% of video gamers, which are mainly children and young adults, do use microtransactions when they play video games. That means they're paying for cosmetics in game. And McCaffrey states that microtransactions may include downloadable content such as story extensions, additional playtime levels, new maps, virtual currency, weapons, armor, characters, or cosmetic items to customize appearance. Microtransactions are providing businesses with record profits. So, what are some of the downsides to this? First, by show of hands, I want to see how many of you have played video games. Or how many of you play video games? And how many of those that play video games have participated in microtransactions? There's a few of you. Now, some of you may be wondering how I have experience or knowledge of any of this. And I don't have an economics degree, but I do have 17,000 hours on my computer alone in video games, which is an extraordinarily large amount that equates to about a year and a half if you stack all the hours back to back. So back to the main thing, the three main issues with microtransactions right now is, first, there's very little regulation on this emerging practice. Second, the correlation between gambling and microtransactions, how people are pushed into that. And then third, the economic risks that companies face from its usage. So in the next section, I'll start by explaining the issues with self-regulation. So microtransactions, specifically loot boxes, fall into a gray regulatory area that can't decide whether it should be taxed as retail purchase or as gambling. Now, McCaffrey goes into this, and basically there's a lot of countries that are confused about this right now because it's basically gambling. The issue is you can't make money off of it. So it's stuck in that gray area between the two. The second point was about the impact on business models, and who is it? His name? Brooks. Through cross-sectional surveys, researchers are discovering a correlation between loot box engagement and a problem gambling symptoms. So this is causing people to form gambling addictions because it's so similar to gambling. You're spending money, especially in the loot boxes, for a chance to get a better skin or a worse skin, and people do sell for in-game currency. Finally, we'll move on to our last point, which is about, how businesses are losing money because of this. So like backlash. And so while microtransactions have helped companies reach record profits, there are also situations where a company's greed overtook their responsibility to stakeholders and cost them millions of dollars. So an example of this would be Blizzard with Overwatch 2. They did something that caused a huge backlash. They got review bombed. They lost a bunch of sales revenue. It's just bad. And every company risks that with microtransactions. So in the end, it is entirely dependent on companies whether their use of microtransactions provides a massive revenue stream or destroys the trust of the community and causes a company to incur losses. Losses. And I just like to read a quote from the Blizzard CEO here in a second. Today we learned that many possible downsides of microtransactions in the video game industry, such as the lack of regulation on loot boxes, the possible correlation between microtransactions and adolescence and gambling problems, and finally how the rise in microtransactions has changed the way companies make money. Now I'm going to leave you with the quote from the Blizzard CEO. I'm sorry, John Ristiello. So, what consumerism really is at its worst is getting people to buy things that don't actually improve their lives. Or when you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're not really very price sensitive at that point in time. So that's absolutely bonkers. Thank you.